Two complete strangers who just had a one-night stand realize they'll be trapped with each other indefinitely because of a toxic cloud. How can they cope with indoor life isolated from human contact but themselves?
Hello and welcome to our channel. So today we'll recap and review an award-winning Brazilian sci-fi drama released in 2021 called A Nuvem Rosa, Portuguese for the pink cloud. Let's check it out.
A woman walks past her pet at a lakeside when she discovers a road pink cloud emerging from the waters. Breathing it in, within 10 seconds, she collapses dead on the ground as her pooch concerningly barks for help for its owner. Meanwhile, two strangers, a man and a woman, make out underneath a pale moonlight sky on top of an apartment complex. The next morning, the guy, Iago, hands over his phone towards his newfound friend, Giovanna, indicating the news regarding the ominous cloud, to which she dismisses, till suddenly air raid sirens bleat throughout the metropolitan area they're in, announcing that everyone close their doors and windows, then simultaneously advising that people retreat indoors immediately. Iago and Giovanna rush to close the doors and windows and then call their loved ones to check their respective statuses. Iago contacts Diego, his ill father's nurse, whereas Giovanna calls her sister, Julia, stuck over at a friend's house, and her friend Sarah, who's home alone. She also calls her mother, and then it is revealed that the two are currently stranded at Giovanna's mother's place for the time being, or indefinitely. Giovanna passes the time by getting massaged by Iago, who was a chiropractor before the incident, but she can't relax because her man is heavily occupied by what the cloud is doing to those who have not been as lucky to seek refuge. However, shelter isn't enough to survive the cloud once the people starve, so the government sends supplies via airtight tubes into their windows despite the online public's doubts over the fear of contamination. Iago and Giovanna are recipients of this program. The operation is a success and the two receive their first rations. Giovanna then jokes that she and Iago are like a traditionally married Indian couple, given how the culture's marriage works by the couple only knowing each other on their wedding day and can only like each other by then. Knowing that they've only known each other after having a one-night stand, their situations couldn't be any more similar. Time has passed to the point that it's Iago's birthday already, yet there are no signs of the pink cloud disappearing.
Giovanna insists that it'll disappear by winter, but the mist continues to loom, much to the unfulfillment of Diego's birthday wish. Unless he wished for something else.
Iago then chats with his father, who greets him with a happy birthday. Asking Diego if his patient is taking medications, he's disappointed that supply chain issues are doubling the med's price. As the nurse also asks for his paycheck, Iago's financial troubles become Giovanna's as well, forcing her to finance themselves with her therapy website. As she falls into a depressive state, Julia joins her by showing a list of things she won't be able to do because of the cloud. Because everything on the list being remotely related to Australia, her sister also envies Giovanna for having experience before the cloud set in. Giovanna herself misses the thrills and the risks that freedom poses. Knowing how her sister's list killed off all her hopes of being free, she eventually gives in to Iago's wishes to have a child. Giving birth to their son with the aid of an online doctor, they named him Lino. Raising Lino brings Giovanna and Iago closer together as he grows up. Yet, Giovanna is still more concerned about whatever's happening outside over being content with Iago and their son as a family. She derives more enjoyment from the intricacies of the cloud apocalypse over family bonding, yet denies it, with Iago responding that she gets too upset over things she can't change. However, he is stuck thinking that even though this is all there is to their lives, it's all utopian, while Geneva perceives her husband as too alienated from the world. Their dinners become dull until one night when Giovanna breaks down by mentioning to Iago how many moles she has on her belly. An out-of-place question catches him off guard, to which she goes on a whole rant about how she can't handle this relationship any longer because they know too much of each other. Suddenly, they resort to role-playing to spice things up, but she gives up once Iago can't take even their non-seriousness seriously. Afterward, she actually breaks up with him after being frustrated with her husband's indifference towards her emotional needs while settling that they split their shares of her mother's house and Lino's custody. Spending some time separated from his wife, Iago focuses on a new love life with an online woman going by Bruna. Meanwhile, Giovanna opts to try out the e-dating scene herself, but she's not into it as her ex. Then, as Iago spends his time with Lino, the boy grows more attached to him than his own mother, ensuing further conflict between the two parents. Her son's favoritism of his father gives her even more resentment towards the man, as Giovanna's continuously ignored by her son.
After not having been granted any sexual favors for some time, Diego grows frustrated. Being laid off the pipe drives him to be too thirsty with Bruna as they perform, let's just say, sex. The loud thud Diego makes against himself while virtually doing the discreet with Bruna becomes indiscreet once his moans of pleasure are loud enough to be heard at Giovanna's downstairs living quarters, forcing her to disconnect the Wi-Fi router connected towards Diego's room, disconnecting Bruna's feed while he does the deed.
After not finishing, Iago then phones his dad, but his father brings him grim news stating that Marcelo has died. Attempting to clear the confusion that Marcelo is Diego, the nurse, while demanding clarity if he is alive at all, his father confirms that he's dead in his kitchen, while denying the earlier remarks he made of wanting to kill the caregiver assigned to him once asked about it by his son. Diego may actually be dead, but what concerns Iago more is that his father is likely not to have been taking his medications any longer, worsening his dementia. Despite all his hardships, however, Iago walks by a window and begins praising the pink cloud, giving it thanks as if it were God. All this time, he prefers being restricted because of his strangely immense devotion towards this toxic mist, as if his birthday wish all those years ago were for the cloud to never dissipate. Meanwhile, Giovanna gets in on satisfying her own lack of sexual tension, too, by exposing and pleasuring herself to a man residing in another building she plays hangman with. She also has her own post-sexual activity call with Sarah, who's been isolated inside her home for years. Over that time, Sarah's been undergoing severe depression after not being accompanied by any human being for so long. Then one night, as Giovanna plays with Lino, a blackout ensues, prompting Iago to go downstairs. They accompany their son in the dark. Finally, after spending considerable time away from each other, they make up by making out.
As Diego looks up at the ceiling, however, he notices a crack. It's unknown how long the crevice has been there, or if it's been seeking remnants of the cloud inward. It may as well have.
Their reconciliation is short-lived, however, once Iago discloses that he likes the cloud while he, Lino, and Giovanna bond together while waiting for the lights to come back on. This revelation makes Giovanna doubt her newly reconciled husband. Giovanna's relationships aren't doing as well elsewhere. She discovers that her sister's friends are pregnant after Julia asks what to do about their reoccurring nausea, and is horrified that her friend's dad consensually impregnated them and that she herself suggests joining in on them. It disturbs her that her sister couldn't care less about being pregnant, since it's the only freedom she could acquire for herself. This makes Giovanna weep for the thrills she used to have for herself, making Iago, alongside Lino, calm her depression down with a virtual reality headset birthday present for her to experience the outside without being outside. Though Giovanna gets to escape reality for a while, Iago has to face it once he attempts to call his father one last time, only to be met by the old man's failure to recognize him as his son at all, an onset of late-stage Alzheimer's. Iago could no longer bother himself listening to a broken record. Yet he's continuously ignored by his family anyway, as Giovanna becomes too immersed with the VR headset and Lino with his online studies. Suddenly, one morning, Lino cries out loud for his parents when a new type of cloud lights up the sky with its bright green colors, a symbol of hope for Giovanna while a looming threat for Iago. The news theorizes it's a non-toxic variant, which prompts Giovanna to pack for an imminent vacation and reunion with Julia happily. Her face darkens, however, once the green clouds themselves disperse and that dreaded rosy mist returns, despair reckoning Giovanna yet again. She then spends even more time with the headset to decorating their living room with sand and other beachside paraphernalia at the expense of missing out on family dinners, straining her relationship with her husband and son. Iago then berates his wife for not spending enough time with Lino, who then rebukes him by stating that their child lives a miserable life, having spent it entirely caged, which Iago denies. She then begins yelling at him until Iago suddenly bursts after he tells Giovanna why he stopped calling his dad. His father's failure to recognize his own son is exactly how she fails to grasp the unavoidable reality they're in. Giovanna then storms out of anger as she plays pretend with her headset back at her makeshift beach. While sitting down on her inflatable, she trips over a pail full of water over Lino's laptop while he does his math homework, to which he responds by grabbing her VR headset and smashing it on the floor. Lino himself insults Giovanna, who shouts that she should know her place in the bleakness of the world they're in. Giovanna laughs and cries it off while telling him he knows nothing of the real world, while aware that her son is inside the bubble of Iago's equally delusional pink fantasy. The straw that breaks the camel's back for her, however, is when she's given by Lino a list of things to like about the cloud, a total inversion of the list Julia showed her. Without any hope and her sanity lost, she tries to call Sarah one last time, only to be redirected to voicemail, most likely have taken the easy way out of loneliness. For that, Giovanna's followed suit. If not for her, the man the cloud killed. Staring at the rosy saturation reflected by the cloud, she slowly walks towards her mother's balcony, past a sleep roommate who unquestionably embraced the world she can't accept. Opening the balcony doors, she has the cloud take her off her misery, counting down the remaining seconds she has left. Within 10 seconds, she exercises her freedom one last time. She couldn't have felt more real than the years she spent trapped indoors with that man.
What's really eerie about this film is, though it was just released last year, a disclaimer from the beginning states that the film's screenwriting took place way back in 2017, the filming was in 2019, and that any resemblance to reality is purely coincidental. Very few films have at least foreseen our world's current circumstances, and no other movie depicts it as excellently as this one. From the toxic cloud reaching global proportions, up to how people would react in complete isolation. It's as if the pink cloud itself is a horrific one-to-one analogy of the coronavirus pandemic. But instead of a film entirely about the disaster, it instead primes itself on the dual extremes of human behavior within captivity. And in this example, those two humans are only compatible with each other because they have to be, as their choice in the matter has been settled by external forces that they can't do anything about. It also demonstrates despair, contrasting the acceptance of circumstances, albeit acceptance into delusion. Overall, this film serves as a case study of human behavior within total isolation, and its numerous awards aren't enough to praise its exquisiteness in its portrayal. Please subscribe to our channel to be notified when we upload. Also, let us know what movies we should recap in the future in the comments down below.